Connie Francis was a prominent American singer in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Her powerful, clear voice made her a beloved figure, particularly among teenagers who idolized her. She was so popular that her name was used to sell a wide range of products, including sweaters, diaries, and charm bracelets. By the time she was 22 years old, her appeal extended beyond the music world and into the realm of film. She starred in several popular young adult movies, including Where the Boys Are and When Boys Meet the Girls. Sadly, despite her tremendous success, Francis's life took a tragic turn when she was raped in a hotel room in Westbury, New York in 1974. The incident triggered a descent into mental illness that would plague her for years to come. In the aftermath of the assault, Francis's career suffered, and she became increasingly erratic in her performances. She spent long periods of time in and out of psychiatric hospitals, struggling to maintain a fragile balance between wellness and debilitating relapse. Today, we dive into this famous singer's life to discover what really happened to Connie Francis. She was born on December 12, 1937. Conchita Rosa Maria Franchero was the only daughter of a hard-working Italian-American couple. Her father, a natural entertainer, loved nothing more than playing his concertina at social gatherings. Early on, he recognized his daughter's talent and sent her to music school to learn the accordion when she was just 3 years old. Concetta's strong, tuneful voice showed even more promise than her accordion playing, and her father sought out every opportunity for her to perform, whether it was lodge celebrations, community events, or church socials. She was always eager to showcase her talent. Her dedication paid off in 1950 when she won first place on Arthur Godfrey's national television show, Talent Scouts. It was Godfrey who suggested she change her name to Connie Francis, and by that same year she became a regular performer on Startime, a popular youth-orientated television variety program. Her star was on the rise, and she quickly became a beloved figure in the entertainment industry. By the time Connie was 16 years old, her managers knew that her days as a youth entertainer were numbered. With a forged identity card, Connie began to perform in clubs and lounges, hoping to catch the attention of a record label. She made a number of demo tapes, showcasing her incredible range and versatility in hopes of landing a recording contract. As a child, Connie Francis sang and played the accordion at school, church, and community events. Her talent and dedication were recognized when she appeared on Arthur Godfrey's national television show, Talent Scouts, in 1950. She became a regular performer on Startime, a popular youth-orientated television variety program from 1950 to 1954. During school vacations, Connie started to perform in clubs and lounges, hoping to catch the attention of a record label. It wasn't until 1955 that she signed her first recording contract with MGM. However, for the next 2 years, she recorded 10 singles that failed to make an impact. Connie's failed auditions for radio and television shows and stage musicals also convinced her to abandon performing and accept a scholarship in radio and television production offered by New York University. With only one disc left on her Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer agreement, Connie recorded Who's Sorry Now, a 1923 favourite of her father's, backed with a gentle rock and roll beat. This time, the single was a blockbuster hit and a $1 million seller. After Who's Sorry, every song that Connie touched seemed to turn to gold. Connie's success skyrocketed as she became an international club and concert entertainer, a film actress from 1960 to 1965, and a frequent guest performer on television. She also lent her voice to motion picture soundtracks and television commercials. Connie Francis dominated the pop charts in the late 1950s and early 1960s with an impressive 35 top 40 hits over 6 years. Her success was rivaled only by the soul legend Aretha Franklin. Among her hits were a mix of contemporary young songwriters and revivals of pop standards from her father's generation. Some of her biggest hits included Lipstick on Your Collar, Mama, Frankie, and My Heart Has a Mind of Its Own. As a concert and television performer, Francis became a major attraction at clubs across the country. She even had her own 1-hour television special and wrote an advice book for her teenage fans. In addition to her success in the United States, Francis found success internationally, particularly in Italy and Spain, where she recorded in native languages. Some of her most successful albums were ethnic collections like Connie Francis Sings Italian Favorites, Connie Francis Sings Spanish and Latin American Favorites, and Connie Francis Sings Jewish Favorites. In the mid-1960s, a new wave of rock music emerged that swept the world and left many older artists struggling to keep up. Connie Francis, who had enjoyed tremendous success throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, found herself among those struggling to adapt. While she still had a devoted fan base, younger audiences were drawn to the new sound and style of bands like the Beatles. Despite this setback, Francis continued to perform and record throughout the 1970s, building on her legacy and reputation as a talented entertainer. But on one fateful night in November 1974, her life was forever changed. While staying in a hotel after a performance, she was brutally attacked by an unknown assailant who robbed her and sexually assaulted her at knife point. The trauma of the attack was compounded by the fact that Francis was left tied up and hidden under a pile of mattresses. It was a shocking and traumatic event that left her physically and emotionally scarred. Though the attacker was never caught, Francis sought justice through the courts and won a substantial settlement from the hotel where the attack occurred, which she accused of negligence for failing to provide adequate security measures. After the traumatic experience, Connie Francis grew increasingly anxious about leaving her home. Her anxiety led to feelings of despondency, which were compounded by a failed plastic surgery procedure in 1977 that temporarily damaged her voice. The combination of physical and emotional trauma took a toll on the singer's mental health, leading her to struggle with depression. To make matters worse, Francis's younger brother, who was a lawyer, was killed in a mafia-style slaying in 1981. The loss of her brother was a devastating blow, and it caused the singer's mental health to further deteriorate. Years of failed marriages, 2 miscarriages, and a tumultuous relationship with her overbearing father had already taken their toll on Francis, and the pressures of stardom that she had faced since childhood only added to her struggles. Connie Francis experienced a brief comeback in 1981, but unfortunately her success was short-lived. Her father, who had always been a dominating figure in her life, made a decision that would change the course of her future. Against her wishes, he had her admitted to a psychiatric hospital in 1983. At the hospital, Connie was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a condition that had been causing chemical imbalances in her brain. Although Connie was eventually released from the hospital, she struggled to stay on top of her medication, which led to further issues. She had a series of alarming incidents, including refueling a jet and threatening a police officer with a broken glass. She also attempted suicide by taking a handful of sleeping pills, and later underwent shock treatments for her depression. As her mental health continued to decline, Connie began to experience paranoid delusions. These delusions made it difficult for her to trust the people around her, and she became increasingly isolated. Her multiple failed marriages and the loss of her younger brother only added to her pain, and it became clear that she was in need of significant help to overcome her struggles. Connie Francis, once a beloved singer, fell into a dark period of mental illness and struggled to find her way back to stability. At one point, she even believed she was the target of a White House conspiracy or the Holy Spirit itself. However, a new drug therapy and a realization of the importance of taking her medication led to a slow recovery. After years of battling her illness, Francis returned to the stage, performing once again to a sold-out crowd. Her audiences were filled with fans from her heyday, now middle-aged, who were eager to relive the nostalgia of their youth. With her set list filled with her classic hits, Francis and her followers could forget their worries and relive memories of a more carefree time, even if only for a short while. Goodbye, Connie Francis.